Please remember to hit that like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and share this video. Also, in the description of this video, you can find our compiled link. Through that link, you can support the channel via our Patreon or through our affiliate links, including your playmat. If you want a custom playmat or custom card sleeves, buy them through there and it helps out the channel and you get a 10% discount. And through our TCG Player affiliate link. If you're going to buy cards, buy them through TCG Player and it helps out the channel. Also, we have our Discord if you want to chat with us. We have Twitter if you want to stay up to date on all the happenings. We have TikTok if you want to check out anything funny. And we have my Pokemon channel if you're into Pokemon, so check out LuxJ. And we will see you in the video. How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing first thoughts today. This first thought is on 11, the Mage. The Secret Lair cards all came out. The Stranger Things crossover, Universes Beyond, and all the commanders in this seem really cool. Like, there's some interesting stuff that you can do with them. They seem like fun build-arounds. Most of them have partner, is actually friends forever, so they can't partner with other commanders with partner, but they can partner with each other. So it's kind of cool. And also I wanted to apologize about the lack of videos I've been producing recently. My sister's wedding just happened, and I was a groomsman, so it was a lot of work there. But we'll get back into it, and we're going to start off with these. And the first one, 11. So, this commander seems very cool. It's the only one that's 3-color, being Grixis. And it's got some cool abilities. Your maximum hand size is now 11. And whenever 11 attacks, you draw a card, lose a life, and if you have 11 or more cards in hand, you can cast an instant or sorcery from your hand for free. There's some very powerful stuff you can do with this card, and I'm excited to talk about it. And so, the categories I'll be talking about are ways to attack safely, because 11 needs to attack to get its ability off. Some splashy cards that you can cast for free that would be a lot of fun. Ways to make sure you have a lot of cards in hand, like tons of card draw. Then we got draw triggers. You're going to be drawing a lot of cards. These are cards that will improve as you draw a lot of cards. Then we have a little combo-y build. We got a bunch of one-off cards. And then we have the Friends Forever talk. We're going to talk about a couple of the commanders that I think would be a good enough pairing to mention. Honestly, 11 doesn't really synergize well with most of the other commanders from this. But there's 2 that I wanted to mention just because I think that it'll make 11 a little bit of a better build. And there's enough synergy that it makes enough sense to add. And those are Chief Jim Hooper and Max the Daredevil. I couldn't really find enough between the other commanders to really add to it. I mean, you could add Mike the Dungeon Master just so you have 5-color if you wanted. But Chief Jim Hooper adds white, Max adds red, and there's enough synergy that I thought it was worth talking about. So we're going to hop into this. So, first, ways to get off safe attacks with 11. You have cards like Whisper Silk Cloak and Aqueous Form, Trailblazer's Boots, Key to the City, Access Tunnel, Hot Soup, all those to make 11 unblockable. You can also use Maze of Ith. So you attack, trigger goes on the stack, you can use Maze of Ith to take 11 out of combat, and the trigger still goes through, and 11's no longer in danger of being blocked and killed. Seems good. But 11 does have 5 toughness, so you're likely to be able to get off a clean attack usually during your turns. Not necessarily every. I would say there's a decent chance, though, that without any of these, you'd still be able to get off a clean attack. Next up, we're talking about those splashy big spells that you can cast for free off 11 that seem like a lot of fun. You got cards like Enter the Infinite. Just wins the game. Always fun. You got Clone Legion. You can just copy your opponent's board state. Awesome. Mnemonic Deluge. You're going to have a lot of these big instants and sorceries in your graveyards. Why not cast one of them 3 times? Rise of the Dark Realms. Not one that you want to cast 3 times, but when you do cast this once, it's going to have a huge effect on the game. You've got Soulfire Eruption, which seems interesting because you can have a lot of high CMC cards that you're planning on casting for free with 11, so you could end up exiling those and deal a lot of damage. Amanatu's Augury could put in a lot of work for you as well. Fevered Suspicion seems like a lot of fun, plus it has rebound, so you get to cast it twice for free. And Blatant Thievery, just steal the best things your opponents control. Always a good time. Next up, we're going to be talking about ways to draw tons of cards. First off, Consecrated Sphinx. Awesome card. Definitely good to include. You've got Rhystic Study, one of the best card draw cards there is in Magic. Add that. Then we got a lot of X spells that can draw you a ton of cards all at once, and a lot of these are instant speed, so you can do it in your opponent's end step, so you untap with a ton of cards, and that's always good. And those include Blue Sun Zenith, Pull from Tomorrow, Brain Geyser, Commander's Insight, Expansion Explosion, and Mind Spring. Other big card draw spells that you can throw into the deck include Peer into the Abyss, which could, depending on your build, just win you the game outright. You've got Nezahal, Phantom Mythos, then cards like Factor Fiction or Treasure Cruise seem fantastic, just ways to draw a lot of cards all at once. Great stuff there. Next up, we're going to talk about the draw triggers, because you're drawing all these cards, you might as well get some extra gravy on that. So some of the cards you could use there are Psychosis Crawler to just drain all your opponents, Chasm Skulker, make a bunch of 1/1s when it dies. You got Ominous Seas to make some big tokens. The Locust God seems awesome, makes a bunch of 1/1s and it's got a way to draw cards on it. And Toothy, because the more cards you draw, the bigger Toothy gets. When Toothy dies, you draw that many cards. Great stuff. Great stuff. Next, we're talking about that combo-y build. So I've got a feeling that a lot of people are going to build 11 to be like an extra turn style deck where you're just trying to loop extra turn spells into each other and extra combat step spells so that way you can just go off, just go nuts like that. And so some of the ways that you can do that are through the extra turn spells like Temporal Trespass, Time Stretch, Expropriate, Beacon of Tomorrows, Alrund's Epiphany, Nexus of Fate, Temporal Mastery, Karn's Temporal Sundering, Temporal Manipulation, Time Warp, all those amazing cards. I've got a feeling that you're going to see a lot of those in 11 decks. And then extra combat steps that you could also use include Fury of the Horde, Relentless Assault, Savage Beating, Seize the Day, World at War, and then there's a couple that you can't cast for free off 11, being Combat Celebrant, Morag, and Port Raiser. So what you can do here is you attack with 11, you play an extra turn spell for free. Next turn, you attack with 11, you play an extra combat step for free. Then you go to the next combat, attack with 11, extra turn spell, and you just kind of keep chaining them together and get a lot of turns in. That seems like a pretty good way to just win the game. I think that 11, I think that's probably the strongest way to build 11. Probably not the most fun, but the strongest. Next up, we're going to talk about some one-off cards. The one-off cards I want to talk about include Stronic Resonator and Lithoform Engine, so you can copy the trigger, cast 2 things for free. You've got cards like Seagate Restoration, which seems sweet because it's a land, but if you don't need lands and you want to draw some cards, you can cast that one for free off 11 and draw a ton of cards. Alheimer's Archive and Teferi's Tutelage, just draw double cards, that's amazing. Thought Vessel and Reliquary Tower, 11's not enough, you need unlimited hand size, add those. God Eternal Kefnet seems disgusting in this deck because you're going to have all these huge spells in the deck. God Eternal Kefnet in play, you flip into one of those at the beginning of your turn, get to cast it for super cheap, and then you get to cast it for free off of 11. That seems awesome. Then we got Backdraft Hellkite, so you can cast all these big cards from your graveyard at flashback. Kess Dissonant Mage, similar thing, being able to cast them from your graveyard. Same thing with Mizzix Mastery, except if you overload that, you're probably going to win the game depending on what's in your graveyard, but it's a high probability there's going to be some good stuff in there. And then Izzet Chemister. This is probably the best deck I've actually seen for Izzet Chemister. It seems super powerful in this build. And this is a card that comes in a lot of the precons and is one of the cards I cut first out of every deck I get that's a precon with it. Like it's a card I'm not a huge fan of, but I think it works pretty well in this deck. And next, we're going to talk about some of the partner pairings now. So the first one I want to talk about is 11 with Chief Jim Hopper. Chief Jim Hopper. Yeah, so I got Hopper, and we have Max the Daredevil that I'm going to be talking about. I don't think Dustin or Will or Lucas really synergize well enough with 11 to even be worth talking about. And the best thing about Mike is that it makes it so you have 5 color if you wanted. But I think Hopper and Max have the best synergies with 11. It's very, like, they're not the best, they're not good synergies, but it's enough synergy to talk about. So Chief Jim Hooper, oh my god, Hopper. So some of the cards that you have access to with Hopper because of the white include Shabraz, the Sky Shark, Aurelia, getting extra combat steps, great. Waves of Aggression, another one that's extra combat steps that you can cast for free off 11. Stormherd seems like a bonkers card to cast for free off 11. Same thing with Approach of the Second Sun as a win con. Velomachus seems really synergistic here. It works very similarly to 11, so you can kind of get 2 huge spells off. Or 2 spells off as long as one of them is within the range for Velomachus. Soulfire Grandmaster seems really powerful in this deck because the instant and sorceries having lifelink doesn't really matter, but you can pay 4 and you cast a free extra turn spell off of 11, pay 4, put it back into your hand, cast it for free again, pay 4, put it back into your hand. It just infinite turns. Like, there's so many ways to just go infinite with Soulfire Grandmaster, and just being able to recast the same amazing spells over and over and over again. Like, that alone makes white worth adding. It's such a powerful card in the deck. And honestly, I couldn't find enough cards to really even talk about Jim Hopper's other abilities other than the fact that he has white. Like, you can get an extra treasure off 11 attacking. That seems fine. And you can throw an Academy Manufactor or a clue off 11 attacking. Throw an Academy Manufactor, and then you can have two clues, 2 treasures, 2 foods whenever they both attack. And since you're already going to have cards to make it so 11 is unblockable, you can also use those on Hopper, make him unblockable, so you kind of had that synergy going. But it's not the cleanest synergy. It's enough that I think it's probably one of the better partner pairings for 11. And I think that it could make a fun deck. I do. And next up, lastly actually, we're going to talk about Max the Daredevil with 11 the Mage. So Max the Daredevil is interesting. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you get to investigate and you get to untap a creature. And he adds green to 11. So the cards I want to talk about here that I think are worthwhile to add into the deck that Max kind of brings in, like just some of them, are Yoriel. Yoriel seems really powerful because you're going to have a huge hand of cards, you can buff your board really big, and you can make tokens, which is nice. And it triggers at the same time as Max, which is pretty synergistic. Korvold seems really cool because you're making these clue tokens, which you can then sacrifice to Korvold when he attacks or enters, and you draw cards, and he gets bigger. Seems like a good synergy. Lore Scale Coatl will just keep getting bigger as you draw cards. Arcanus would be awesome, being able to untap Arcanus with Max. So you tap Arcanus, draw 3 cards, cast 2 spells, untap Arcanus, tap Arcanus, draw 3 cards. Kaidel, you're drawing so many cards, she becomes a crazy mana dork, which you can then untap with Max. You can also use Land of War Elves and other mana dorks like that to really maximize your value with Max. So you ramp using mana dorks that you can then untap with Max. Sylvala being one of those types of mana dorks because Sylvala is pretty good. Jadzi seems interesting because you can cast a lot of the instant sorceries like for 1 mana off Jadzi, and it'll trigger every time 11 it triggers pretty much. Unbound Flourishing seems like a really cool include for this because there's so many X spells to draw cards, so you can use Unbound Flourishing to just draw double that many cards. Reshape the Earth, just huge ramp card that you can cast for free off 11. You have Azuri's Predation, which seems like an extremely powerful board wipe that will also just give you a massive board state. And Praetor's Council gives you no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. That's great. And it pulls everything from your graveyard back into your hand. So after a few turns of casting stuff for free off 11, you can get all that stuff back and do it again. Like, there's a lot of good cards in green for 11. And I think that Max synergizes enough just because of the fact that you can untap your mana dorks and untap like stuff, pretty much just mana dorks and cards that tap to draw cards. And being able to create the clues is just a little bit of a bonus that lets you draw extra cards too. And you can throw in Academy Manufacturer as well, because that's a great card. And that is everything I have for 11 the Mage. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.